Jaya Jaya! Okay, tribe, let's talk about anger and other shadow emotions. There is something happening in our lives which is a suppression of emotions, and this is killing us from within. You don't want to suppress your emotions, you just want to channel them in ways that are mature and healthy. For instance, if I am angry about something and I keep on holding this anger inside of me, it's going to consume me from within, right? We don't want that. We want to find ways of channeling that energy in ways that are creative, in ways that are transmuting this emotion and this energy. So imagine that inside of me, this anger and this rage that might be suppressed emotions from years of life on this planet, it stays inside of me, right? And it's like a being inside of me that wants to explode. So if I don't release that emotion, if I don't release these emotions, I'm going to be a little bit like a time bomb. I don't want to be a time bomb. I don't want to be just suddenly exploding out of nowhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what we can call energetic and emotional release. I'm going to shake my body. I'm going to voice. I'm going to express. I'm going to do fire breath. I'm going to go into the jungles. Swim into the forest. I'm going to go to the gym, pump up some muscles. I'm going to do things to activate that energy and give a channel of expression to that energy. You have to realize something. It is that anger is not a negative thing by itself. We are going to be shamed for being angry, right? Because people might feel threatened by that, and this is perfectly okay. It means that we have to find ways of navigating it and expressing in ways that are safe for us. We're going to set up really clear boundaries in this expression, and also for other people around us. For instance, if I have a partner and suddenly I'm really angry and I'm starting to voice this anger towards her, she's going to feel threatened, she's going to contract, she's going to get really scared. And that's not okay. That's not a valid way of expressing my anger. What I want instead is first to process by myself. And then if at some point there is some trigger or some emotion that needs to be processed within the context of the relationship, then it's something we can talk about, we can bring to the surface. I say, listen, I'm feeling a really deep tension in my system over something that happened a few days ago. Would you like us to create a safe space to release whatever emotion might be there? So this is something that we can bring into the context of a relationship, but we are going to create a context which is safe, which is based on consent. Yes, I give you permission. For instance, again, if I have a girlfriend who is really angry with me about something, then I'm going to be like, yes, sure, voice to me what's happening, but don't touch me, don't hurt yourself, and we're going to do that for 5 minutes. So I set up the timer and give her permission to go into full power with me, with whatever might be happening in her field, but within a certain context. If we just go free flow, most of the times what's going to happen is that there is going to be a lack of safety created within the context of relationships and romantic connections. But of course, you know, this idea of anger and the expression of anger is something that can happen also within business context, social life, and simply within our own lives. So what we want is to be masters of our shadows, not enslaved by them. If my anger is contracted inside of me and I'm like going really crazy with that emotion and that energy, then I'm not really master of my anger. I'm being enslaved by an emotion that is dominating me. We want to do the opposite. We want to actually feel that rage and that anger. We want to feel those emotions, but then channel them in ways that are going to be creative, productive, where I stay master of that emotion. The metaphor that you can use or that you can see is, for instance, if I'm riding a stallion, right, this wild horse, who is the master of the race there? I still need to be in some form of control over what's happening. Otherwise, this horse might jump off a cliff with me on top of it. So we don't want that. You see, I want to be master of my emotions. And even if the emotions are intense and powerful, I am still the one who is mastering that emotion. I'm not enslaved by the emotion. So this whole thing that we're talking about, which is around shadow mastery, we're talking about anger and rage, but there can be dozens of emotions. There might be pain, there might be things that are softer, like sadness or grief, right? So all of that, all these emotions, most of the times what's going to happen in life is we are going to be really happy with certain emotions, like joy, A little bit like in the movies, in the movie Inside Out, joy is really out there, happy, running, and then when sadness comes and tries to take control, sadness is being suppressed. So we don't want to do that. We want to give space to all those emotions so that they have a voice inside of us. And some of these emotions are going to be sometimes expressed in ways that might not be completely mature. It might be mature. For instance, if I have a voice inside of me that is immature and triggered and enraged by something, that doesn't mean that I have to suppress it. I just have to do it within a context, which is maybe a solo practice, maybe a self-practice. And then if there is a good friend of mine, a male friend who is ready to hold space for me, then I can start to voice it in ways that are potentially more explosive, again, without physical contact, unless there is consent for physical confrontation, right? So we create really the safety and the context for all these shadow emotions to be expressed in powerful, mighty ways so that we can use that energy. You see, behind rage, behind anger, there is an overflow, there is like a volcanic force, there is Kundalini fire, there is a potential to direct that energy in creative ways. Many of the artwork that we know out there have been created from sometimes a painful emotion, something that was triggering, something that was difficult, and then we transmute all that into a beautiful artwork, for instance, right? Many of the writings, many of the bigger literature books that we know, many of the songs have come and were birthed out of a painful experience that somebody was having. It might be a breakup, it might be a challenging situation, it might be grief, or it might be some other crisis in somebody's life. So here's the idea of what we want to, direct. We want to give space to these emotions to be expressed. And all of that, it's an art form. If you haven't been exposed to that or exposed to this message and you are not trained in doing that, search for some help, for somebody who can guide you into doing that in healthy ways. And of course, if you see this video and you have questions on that, just reach out. If you're over here in Bali or even remotely, we can have a session and I can guide you in ways of expressing, releasing emotions that are trapped maybe in your system, you see, because you don't want to navigate life with something that is accumulated. This stress that is a conflict between energy that wants to relax and energy that wants to fight. There is a conflict happening inside of you. There is a crisis or a stressful response that is happening inside of you. You don't want to hold that into your field. You want to give it space to be released and channeled. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Feel free to reach out and I'll be happy to follow up on this topic with you anytime you want. If you have any questions, post them in the comments as well. I'm happy to do some follow-up videos to this one. Love you. Keep on rising.